everyone, welcome to episode 4 of building this fastest cyber Apache. So if you don't know what we are up to, I strongly suggest that you watch the first 3 episodes. The link will be in the description below. Now here at xBhp, we set out to do something which had never been done before in India. Making a full-fledged, ultra-fast gaming rig in the form of a motorcycle. Before I go ahead, let me pass on the reins to Mr. KSB, who will tell you all about it.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 4 of building the fastest cyber Apache. Now, the motorcycle in question, TVS Apache RR310. The fastest all made in India motorcycle, and in our opinion, the best looking as well. In episode 1, we talked about the components that will go into our build. In episode 2, we finalized the approach that we were going to use to build the shell of the fastest cyber Apache. And in episode 3, we took our components for a test drive by assembling them inside a regular enclosure. When we say something like this has never been made in India, we mean it. Upon searching on the internet, we did find a few examples around the world, but nothing too fancy. But the simple fact that they existed pushed us to take things up a notch, and that is what this episode is all about. Making the shell itself was quite complex. Having it ready to receive a fully functional computer inside it, even more so. And then, in true xBhp fashion, we added a few more layers of complexities, a few more features, tweaks, quirks that would make the fastest cyber Apache truly stand out. So, let's dive right into it. The first thing we are going to talk about, which according to me is also one of the coolest, is our way to showcase the components. Nowadays, PC components have become really beautiful things to look at, and that is why most modern cases come with tempered glass side panels in order to showcase those components. Initially, we also planned to have a portion of the fairing transparent in order to showcase the components, but that would have been conventional, and that is one term we try to stay away from whenever possible. While thinking about all the ways we could differentiate our way, we wondered, what if the fairing of our build opened like the doors of a supercar? Now that's really cool, and that is what we went with. While suicide or scissor style doors would have looked cool, they would not have worked with our build for obvious reasons. So we went old school, gullwing style. And trust me, with the fairing on both the sides open, our build looks like something Batman would use to explore the skies of Gotham with. While the idea is really cool, it was really difficult to execute. Apart from precision cutting the fairing, another problem that we faced was the hinge. Regular hinges would not have worked with our build, and we needed something different. And while thinking about the possible solutions, we found out about Abhishek from Studio 34. Once he looked at the build, he had a few ideas that he drew up for us. And after multiple interactions and iterations, we finally got it right. Once the hinges were figured out, the next step was even more demanding. We wanted the doors of our build to be automatic. And as you may already know, any sort of automation requires a lot of electronics know-how and engineering acumen to get it right. So on our part, there was a lot of figuring out to be done. While thinking about the possible solutions, the motographer decided to call up his old friend Ramandeep. He is an electronics whiz and a sort of a genius when it comes to all this stuff. He needed to look at the fairing, the hinges, and the overall build to figure out a solution for us, and in no time, he did.
Now the idea here is to make this part movable so that it becomes like a bat wing, and we can remotely control it. We can open it and close it as and when required to expose the insides of the PC.
The solution that he came up with was an arm that extended via a mechanical actuator and was rigged to be controlled wirelessly via a remote. And in that, we got the lever that would lift the doors of our fairing automatically.
We got this actuator motor, and we are trying to fit it in a way that this can control the wing. So I'll just show you how we intend to install it. And when I press this remote button, it should start moving out. And it should also stop when it reaches its maximum height.
After the automated fairing, it was now time to think about the console for our build, and that is another thing that Ramandeep worked with us on.
So what we're doing today is we're trying to integrate this display, which is the actual console of the motorcycle, and the idea is to amalgamate the display into the motorcycle so that it becomes a part of the PC. And what we do is we actually remove the existing display and we've replaced it with a different monitor, and this is now an HDMI display which can be connected onto the PC directly, and it becomes an extension of the whole display system.
For the console of our build, we used the actual one from the Apache RR310. So what we did was, on a hardware level, was to replace the screen inside the actual console of the bike with a generic display that was powered via USB and received input via HDMI.
So the motorcycle itself will have its own display which will show the vital units of the PC. It will show you what's happening on the PC and the parameters of the PC itself. And the cables would run directly to the PC and we would just fit it onto the console.
Once the work on the hardware level was done, it was time to set the display up. For pulling up the various readouts from the various sensors inside our computer, we used IDA64. As you can see, at the moment the graphics and everything are pretty basic, and that is all something that we need to figure out. The graphics and everything will be redesigned, but for now we know how to go about it and we will get it done. Another important thing that we simply could not overlook, even in a project like this, was the fact that at xBhp we put the biker above the bike. So if our build resembled a motorcycle, it had to have a rider. For a rider, we looked at a lot of options, from mannequins to other shambled messes, but nothing convincing. So we decided to do it ourselves. And we did, out of board. Making it ourselves enabled us to have it just the right size so that it fits the clothes and the gear that we got for our little rider. In its current state, it may seem like it needs a bit more work, but at least we know that we are headed in the right direction. The last thing for this episode is the fact that up to this point, you have only seen crude renditions of the shell that we are building. But since we are so close to completion, the process of sanding and painting has also been initiated. As you will be able to tell from the glimpses, we are sure that the end result is going to end up looking quite stellar. So, we are closer than ever to seeing this epic project through. Complexities, hardships, impossibilities, and yet we are nearly ready to showcase the fastest Cyber Apache. So, stay tuned for the next episode where we'll reveal the build, and till then, ride safe, game hard.